Welcome, everybody. I'm Dursey. I'm with the Rumble Up client experience team. So I talk to many of you that are on this call daily, weekly, regularly, to make sure you're, getting the most out of the platform and um, really getting maximum education to make sure you are, you know, doing what you're supposed to be doing to make sure your messages get to where they're supposed to get to. And that's sort of the topic of this call with the new iOS 26 update coming out. There's been a lot of news headlines. And so, what we're going to be doing on this webinar is sort of walking you through what we're doing in regard to this update, just to make sure you're still getting your messages in front of the people that need to see them. So, on this webinar, we have our founder and CEO, Thomas Peters, and Ashley Lowry, our Director of Messaging Strategy, that are going to walk you through some of these changes and what you can do to keep getting your messages seen by the contacts. All right. Differences in iOS 26 Messages app. So there are some differences between the current version of Messages and the new iOS 26 app. We're going to also talk about the good, the bad, the unknown, 3 critical ways to text in the iOS 26 era. And then we will finish with a question and answer. And you can submit your questions on the bottom of your little Zoom toolbar. There's a Q&A button. Just add your questions there. And at the end, we will try to get to it. Also, everybody that attends this call will be getting reached out to by our client experience team, just to make sure we've fully answered all your questions with iOS 26 and walk you through some best practices about things you can do to make sure your messages are, again, being seen by your contacts. So with that, I will kick it off to Thomas.
Thanks, Darcy. Appreciate the introduction. And thanks everyone for taking some time for this really important topic. So we thought it'd be most useful just to walk everyone through what exactly is changing and what the reality of iOS 26 is, because as Darcy alluded to, there has been a lot of reporting, not all of it accurate. And so we want to sort of clarify exactly what's happening. I've been on the iOS 26 beta for over a month now. I think we're on to iOS beta number 9, which should be basically the ultimate one because Apple is announcing the new product line today. Okay, so the most important thing to understand is that there is a new visibility to an old feature called message categorization. In previous iOS versions, this was a feature, but it was hidden deep in the settings app. What's changed in iOS 26 is that when you log into your actual iMessage app, there is a little blue bar on the upper right-hand corner that if you tap on it, it allows you to click this option called Manage Filtering. And from there, it jumps you into the settings app and allows you to enable something called unknown senders. And if it was only that simple, it'd be a much simpler presentation. But Apple decided to go kind of crazy and introduce lots of different categories. And so the screenshot on the left here, the new folders, shows you what a user sees if they enable all of these sort of subfolders within their messaging app. Now, again, if I haven't already said it, it's really important to understand message categorization is off by default. A user has to actually go to manage, filtering of messages and choose from a variety of options how they want their messaging app to filter messages. And so there's been some inaccurate reporting that claimed it was on by default. That's not the case. For those users who do choose to enable it, however, there'll be some changes. So now instead of just seeing all of your messages from all of your known senders, all of your unknown senders, spam, short code, there's basically 6 options. So there's known senders, which is the default thing you see when you open it up. Then if you hit that little thing in the upper right-hand corner with the little number 2, you'll see these other options, including unknown senders. So that's a phone number that is not saved in your contacts. And then there's also transactions, which itself leads to another subfolder. Then you have promotions, spam, and recently deleted. So it's kind of a confusing setup. Um, Obviously, I'm not objective because I run a political texting company, but I have noticed that the additional functions and features do make the messaging app more clunky. And you really get into that when you start thinking about notifications. So if we look over on the right side of this slide, the difference is that if you enable message categorization, unknown senders, while they still trigger a dot in the top right of the messages app, it will skip sending you a trigger banner, a lock screen notification, etc. And this can lead to some really undesirable results. So this screenshot on the right, where you can see that 202-301-8976 number, and that person texted me, "I've arrived." This is my actual phone. And this actually happened to me a couple weeks ago. I had a client visiting me in our offices in Arlington, and I, without thinking, emailed the client saying, "When you get to the lobby, text me that you're here, and I'll send someone down to get you." Well, they did. They texted me that they had arrived, but I didn't see the notification because I had opted into message categorization. And so it wasn't until they were 10 minutes late and I emailed them saying, "Hey, is everything all right?" They said, "Yeah, I've been down here for a while." And so if I'd had this experience as a user, that would be the kind of thing that would cause me to disable message categorization because I missed a really important text from someone that was not yet saved in my contacts. It's interesting as well that my Verizon bill shows up under unknown senders. So does my Whole Foods delivery. And I can imagine a lot of folks with kids in school getting a text from a teacher or a coach about some sort of change and not seeing it. And that just leads me to believe that the adoption rate uh, will not necessarily be very high for this advanced message filtering. So I'll speak more about that in the next slide where we start going through the good, the bad, and the unknown. All right, so let's talk about the good things that are happening in iOS 26 because I think there are actually some very good things happening. First, as I said, the message categorization option is off by default. It equally impacts all senders, not just political, which means that people are going who do opt into message categorization are going to have to go into that unknown inbox a lot. Think about Gmail. Think about if Gmail operated the way iOS 26 does, and the only emails that reached your Gmail were from people that you had personally created a Gmail profile for, and all the other emails that you got from new companies you subscribed to, from the Medicare services, like telling you, Social Security sending you an update, like you'd have to go into that second folder to find all of those messages. That's the way iOS 26 operates. All messages that are not saved as a contact in your phone number, in your phone, go to this second inbox. The third thing that I think is good is that there's more trust. The spam filter in iOS 26 beta is actually much better at catching the true scams than the phone carriers have been to date. So when I go into my spam folder, personally, it is all, unpaid toll scams. Your Coinbase wallet, has extra money. Um, your UPS package has been caught in customs. These are all true scams, and the Apple spam filter actually does a really good job of catching those things, which increases trust in the messaging inbox, which is a good thing for our messaging. Number four is Apple Power users do get more control. People who love going deep into their settings of their phone and changing and customizing everything do have a bit more control. But we believe, and our experience from testing has shown, that they're still going to have to go into that unknown messages folder. Number five is well-crafted, engaging content has the best chance of reaching Apple users. And we've already seen this a lot on Android because Android has similar but dissimilar um, spam filter. And so we've gotten really good at helping clients make sure that they inbox correctly on Android. And that's a lot of what about Ashley will be describing in the second half of this presentation. Sixth is texting vendors will face higher standards. I would say that texting is far from dead. But lazy texting is on life support. You can no longer guarantee that a text message of any kind will be delivered to the vast majority of your audience and it will convert in the way that you want it to convert, which means that principles that this company has stood for the last 6 years and tools that we built to the platform will be used more often and will be value differentiators in the political texting marketplace. Finally, there's been a really healthy industry dialogue underway between the various Republican committees, the AAPC, the campaign registry, campaign verify, and Apple all experience the pains and trials of this new campaign registry regime, which has allowed for political senders to be distinguished from other types of messaging. And I think that will bear some good fruit in the long term. All right, let's go to the bad. So the bad, I think the most obvious bad thing is that if an Apple user enables message categorization, your text most likely will be seen later and not instantly. And so that's why a lot of the things that Ashley will be talking about are very important for the minority of Apple users who opt into message categorization. We want to make sure that we get as many of our messages from our clients into the known inbox, not the unknown inbox, again, for Apple users who have enabled this feature. Second is that the mainstream coverage on political messaging has been inaccurate and dated. There's been a lot of headlines going back and forth about this is the end of texting. This is no big change. Um, in my experience, reporters tend to not understand what they write about. And the more you know about something yourself, the more you can kind of see where those inaccuracies are. So, our effort here with this webinar and our ongoing meetings between our clients and our client navigators is to make sure that they have, as someone likes to say, ground truth data to make informed decisions and to properly educate clients. And there's also been misinformation in the political tech ecosystem. Finally, let's talk about the unknowns. It's an unknown right now if Apple will use TCR registration as a sender signal, as a way of differentiating political messaging from other types of messaging. But the introductions have been made, good conversations are happening, and that's going to continue to be something that we at Rumble Up and myself personally will be advocating for. Number two, we don't know what the look back window is that keeps someone in the known senders. So one of the things about the Apple functionality is that if you reply to a text message under the current beta, and we expect this to be in the final release, um, that phone number will appear in your known senders because you've interacted with it. You've replied to a message. Now, this is something we've been advocating for 6 years. Two-way conversations are better than one-way conversations. So we don't know how long this look back window is. We've done a lot of testing. It could be in perpetuity. It could be 30 days. I don't know that Apple knows, but as soon as we do know, it's something that we'll be communicating to our clients so they can craft strategies around it. We also don't know how well time-sensitive messages are going to be elevated. Apple here is very inconsistent in our beta testing in terms of what messages kind of skip the unknown folder and go to known senders because they're deemed time-sensitive. It does well with most two-factor authentication codes, for instance, but it treats them differently as other time-sensitive messages. And obviously, a lot of our clients' messaging is time-sensitive, and this is something that we continue to speak with Apple about. Fourth, we still don't know if political messages will be mismarked as spam. So far, they are not. And this is an area where I believe there is a commitment from Apple that political messaging should not end up in the spam filter. And that will be one of the particular areas that we'll be monitoring on our own phone devices, on our clients' messaging in real time to make sure that they do not on an ongoing basis. And finally, we don't know if Apple is going to make more changes. I would suspect that they will. That is why it is important that we have solutions that are both operative now and will be flexible enough in the platform to keep up with any changes that come down the pike. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Ashley to talk about solutions.
Alrighty. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Darcy. This part of the webinar is going to be what this means for you and how you can put some of these action items into place for your messaging campaigns. So 3 critical ways to text in the iOS 26 era. You want to spark real replies, share impactful contact cards, and partner with a trusted vendor. First, Thomas mentioned this a little bit, is getting those replies. Conversations and two-way texting has always been a best practice. It's always been super valuable to have those positive inbound responses to your phone number, whether it's short code, 10DLC, or toll-free. So doing this off the bat and incorporating this into your messaging program is super important now more than ever. A few things to note, your text preview is only 45 characters, so make it stick. After those 45 characters, keep your asks concise. Maybe ask for one thing. Prompt a reply message that's simple, easy, frictionless. Again, we want to stress that two-way communication has always been a best practice. It's going to be absolutely essential with this new rollout. So here's an insight to my inbox and the messages that are relevant to my life. So we have McDonald's, we have the Senate committee, and we have my face wash company. So what you'll notice is these were all very direct in soliciting and sparking those real replies. They asked me one exact thing, and a good rule of thumb here is, would you answer this text if you got it? Contact cards. So replies are one thing, but having your contact save your information is huge. So contact cards, everyone's been talking about them. I'm sure everyone on this call has heard something or another thing, how important they are, a rollout, etc. They're super important. Your first impression with your contact matters big time. You can call it a contact card, but what it really is a virtual contact file. This file is going to have all the information you're going to want to send to your audience, your name, address, maybe your donation page, maybe your polling page, and a little contact photo. You see on the right here, this is my contact card with my Rumble Up photo sent out via SMS and our custom link shortening tool. We have two other examples on our next two slides, which are more of a tried and true standard method of contact cards that you might have seen. These are via MMS. So these come through via keyword. You initiate that reply, and then the user is sent back your contact card to save on their phone. On the left, you have what it is before they save it, and on the right, you have what it looks like afterwards. The next screen is another example. Use a relevant keyword. Use something that makes sense. The one before used Mike. This one uses safe. Really stay relevant and interact with your users. And you can do this via SMS or via MMS. Okay. So knowing SMS and MMS, the differences there, leads us into the final point, which is partnering with a trusted vendor. SMS, you're going to have that link click. You're going to have some sort of reporting. Carriers are a black box. We don't really know who saves your contact cards. If you use a link and you partner with a vendor that knows you can use a link, you're going to get that track click. If you want to go the standard route of MMS, another great option, but use a vendor who will encourage you to test these types of messaging and try new things and see what works best. Take a minute to look at this checklist and ask yourself, is your vendor looking out for your interests? Do they have a seat at the table? Thomas has a seat at the table, Amanda's got a seat at the table. Does your vendor know your organization's goals, objectives, needs? If you have needs, if you need new tools and features, is your vendor building them? Are they provided? Will they go to bat for you? Most importantly, does your vendor treat your success as their own? For clients on today's call, we will be reaching out with tailored suggestions based on your messaging as a thank you for spending your time with us today. These are backstage VIP level insights that you won't hear, but our client representatives will be reaching out. These suggestions are going to obviously include our full slate of well-known features, such as white glove support, super easy 10DLC registration, award-winning EVTs, and the custom short links I mentioned earlier, which you can incorporate into your contact card program. We've also got 3 new features rolling out, soonest being tomorrow, over the next 8 weeks, to make these best practices even easier.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, I'll give everybody maybe like 30 more seconds to drop in your questions in the Q&A feature on Zoom. And then we'll get right to some questions. Okay. I have a first question. All right. So this will be like round robin. Thomas or Ashley can just decide if they want to take it. So the first question I have here, does Apple tell me if my messages go to spam, or do I have to physically figure that out myself?
I can take that one. So I think I mentioned earlier, but Apple's pretty much a black box. There's a lot of information they're not giving back to us. We can't tell if you saved the contact cards. They're not going to send back the information of what folder you landed in, but it's super important to have a vendor, again, that's at the table and having these conversations, and then is able to give you all of the insights they have on your messaging campaigns. So link clicks, number of replies that you have, all of this information, Rumble Up has and is ready to give you if you have any questions.
Yeah, I would just expand a little bit that our methodology here is somewhat similar to how we test our enhanced video product, where we have a plethora of test devices that our team uses to make sure that when just because we create a video inside the portal and a client sends it, that it's actually rendering correctly on all the different iOS and Android devices. So in a similar way, we'll be looking to make sure that our we're on the lists that our clients send to, and that those messages are showing up correctly. We will still get spam notices if a phone carrier blocks a message. That's something that we do have access to.
One more here. Has Apple suggested they will adjust filter sensitivity as time goes on, like the carriers have in the past?
That is an unknown, and I have heard different things at different times. I think this is an area where the various stakeholders are doing a really good job of making sure Apple is aware of what sort of solutions would be unacceptable. So it's generally considered, and I don't think this is revealing anything proprietary, that it would be unacceptable for Apple to use human intervention to decide what is a spam message or what is not. We saw how that worked out with the big social media companies during COVID. It did not work out well. It made everyone more angry. And so I think that is a TBD, truly. I don't think Apple has decided about that. Right now, it seems that the spam filter in Apple iOS 26 is fed by the data that people themselves mark messages as spam, but at an even higher level than the phone carriers, in the sense that it seems to me that the phone carriers are letting through a lot more traffic than Apple does when it comes to scams. And so this could be some proprietary Apple algorithm that they're aware of. One interesting thing is that a lot of scams to iOS use the iMessage platform. And so if you've ever received a scam message from an email address or something, that's actually someone using the iMessage pipes, which Apple has more visibility into than the phone carriers, which should explain why Apple is better at catching iMessage scams than the phone carriers are, because it's on Apple's own platform. Again, the bottom line here is that's good for the industry, because we want the inbox on Apple to be trusted, and it'll be more trusted the fewer scam messages get through.
Um, this one may be for Ashley. Um, Question is, I know for text prospecting, oftentimes messages from the same candidate come from different numbers. How do they save the contact if messages are coming from different numbers?
You can put the number that you want saved into your contact card, but if you're sending across multiple vendors, I would partner with your most trusted one and ask that question with your account rep.
Or have them all sent through us?
That works.
This is maybe another one for Thomas. Question is, right now it seems like a lot of this is unknown. As someone who is sending on behalf of clients, is there any sort of security with this new update to give, or is it more of a waiting game?
I'm not sure if I quite understand the question, Darcy.
I
I don't
think
want to
they're
answer.
asking, yeah, I think they're asking, it's kind of sort of the point of the webinar to provide some information to them. But I think that, like, the question they're asking is like, they feel what's going to happen next is sort of unknown. What can they tell their clients that think it's unknown? Like, can they provide their clients with any information?
Yeah, so that's where we try to divide the presentation into the good, the bad, and the unknown. And the things in the good category are known. The things in the bad category are known. It's only those 5 points in the unknown category and some of the questions that have been asked here that remain to be seen. And they mostly come down to, how is the spam filter going to operate? And the reality is we won't know that until this is in production, and there is more adoption than the very small number of people who are part of the beta program. And the second thing comes down to questions which we will have more time to run down answers for when we see live client traffic and compare, especially metrics on click-throughs, on responses, et cetera. And also it comes down to the part of the unknown is how much the industry adopts the best practices and the tool set that RumbleUp provides. And so if you are adopting a VCF program, if you are investing more effort into conversational messages, that's going to be really good. We've seen that before iOS 26. And so the unknowns, I think, come down to a lot to how much the industry adapts. As the industry the political industry has had to adapt in other channels, especially email, um, over time as those filtering algorithms change. And so the most important thing here is to realize that we're not going to say things that we don't feel confident about, and um, we think it's irresponsible to not give people accurate information. And so we're honest about what we don't know, but we have plans and tools for as many contingencies as we can foresee. And for anything that falls through the cracks that's not solvable through technology, that's where my personal pledge is to go to bat for political messaging and to make sure that it gets inboxed, because this is extremely important. I think if we had engaged more fully, more quickly, it is possible that this update might have had more changes than what's currently slated to be released. That's something that we can't know because the timeline played out as it did. But definitely, we're going to be holding Apple's feet to the fire, and we're going to be ensuring that when Apple says things like, "Oh, we don't expect this to have an impact on political messaging," that's actually the lived experience of our clients who are sending compliant, registered, good messaging with good targeting and all the hygiene and best practices that our client navigators are working with our partners to do.
Well, we have ran out of time here, but like I mentioned in the start of the webinar, our client experience team, including myself, are going to be reaching out to all of you and trying to set up calls to make sure you're fully prepared to, take this information back to your clients. And yeah, so you feel confident going forward that, your messages are going to get to where they're supposed to get to. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it. And like I said, we will be in contact. Thank you so much and have a great day.